In a culture where every woman is told to shrink herself, apologize for her appetite, and pretend that solitude is a personality, Cardi B just walked into Paris Fashion Week on the arm of a Nigerian soccer star and detonated every rule the internet ever tried to write for her. And nothing puts that on display quite like the 72 hours that followed, because within 3 days of that one dinner, a baby mother went nuclear, an ex-girlfriend broke a 9-month silence, a bisexuality allegation hit the timeline, a domestic violence claim entered the chat, and Cardi B herself logged onto a Twitter space and said the one sentence that made the whole internet freeze. This is not a gossip story. This is a full-scale reputation demolition happening in real time, and the man at the center of it, Maduka Okoye, has no idea how deep the hole under his feet just got. Cardi B did not ask for any of this. Cardi B walked into the Jean-Paul Gaultier show, took a seat that a man named Maduka Okoye politely guided her toward, smiled for the cameras the way she has smiled for cameras for the last decade, and by the time she resurfaced at a group dinner in Venice, the internet had already written 3 different sequels to a movie that had not even started filming. Maduka Okoye is the goalkeeper for the Super Eagles of Nigeria, a professional footballer with a European career, young son, and until last week, a relatively quiet personal life. That quiet is now gone. That quiet is now gasoline. And the match, as always, came from the one place a man never expects it, the mother of his own child. Jelicia Westhoff is the name every headline is racing to spell correctly this week. She is the mother of Maduka Okoye's son. She is the woman who watched the Paris Fashion Week photos hit her timeline and decided that silence was no longer an option. And what Jelicia Westhoff did next was not a subtweet. It was not a vague post. It was a coordinated, receipts-loaded, multi-slide, full-throttle character indictment of the father of her child, delivered directly to an audience of millions, with Cardi B's name dragged into the frame as the accelerant. Away from the cameras, in the quiet corners of Instagram stories, Jelicia Westhoff accused Maduka Okoye of being an absent father. She accused him of not showing up when the child was in the ICU. She accused him of skipping birthdays, planning nothing, sending nothing, being nothing. And then she went somewhere far darker. She accused Maduka Okoye of being bisexual. She accused Maduka Okoye of admitting it to her. She accused Maduka Okoye of physical violence. And she wrapped all of it in a bow that read, in the plainest possible language, "This is who Cardi B is choosing." Read this line carefully, because Cardi B could have gone quiet. Cardi B could have deleted a photo, hidden a follow, played the game that celebrities have been playing since publicists were invented. Cardi B did the opposite. Cardi B logged onto a Twitter space in the middle of the storm, took a breath, and said the words that every woman who has ever been told to lower her standards has secretly wanted to say out loud. Could Cardi pick a better man? Cardi shrugged. Cardi laughed. Cardi said the thing that made the algorithm shudder. As long as a man has a baby mother, that baby mother is going to be a problem. As long as a man has an ex-girlfriend, that ex-girlfriend is going to be a problem. And Cardi B is not going to be single forever, because Cardi B has needs, Cardi B has a life, Cardi B is a grown woman, and Cardi B is done apologizing to strangers who have never bought her a coffee, let alone loved her. The receipts speak for themselves, and this is where the story cracks open a second time, because the very next day, a woman named Jennifer decided that Jelicia Westhoff was not going to have the last word. Jennifer is Maduka Okoye's ex-girlfriend. Jennifer dated Maduka Okoye for 9 months. Jennifer has messages. Jennifer has screenshots. Jennifer has a story that flips the entire narrative on its axis. And Jennifer went public with the kind of surgical precision that only a woman with nothing left to protect can wield. Jennifer said Maduka Okoye is not bisexual. Jennifer said Maduka Okoye never hit anyone. Jennifer said the woman throwing those accusations is a woman she once believed, a woman who once manipulated her, a woman who fed her lies while Jennifer thought she was the villain in someone else's love story. Jennifer posted the direct messages. In one of them, Jelicia Westhoff herself, in her own words, allegedly admits it. "He never hit me," she wrote. "We just fought. Stop reading things on the internet. Stop reading things on the internet." Those 7 words are now a museum piece, because they were sent privately, screenshotted quietly, and detonated publicly at the exact moment the same woman who wrote them was accusing the same man of the exact opposite. And now the internet is doing what the internet always does. The internet is picking a side. The internet is picking Cardi B. And this is the part of the story where the villain construction gets interesting, because the villain here is not who the first headline said it was. The villain here is a shifting shadow, and every new receipt drops a different face into the light. Now zoom out for a second, because Cardi B has been through this movie before. Cardi B was married to Offset, and every one of you watched that unravel in slow motion across 3 years, 4 albums, and 1 very public custody battle. Cardi B was linked to Stefon Diggs, and the internet had opinions about that too, opinions about football, opinions about timing, opinions about a woman who dared to be seen with someone new. And now Cardi B is being told, again, by the same chorus of strangers, that she needs to choose better. Choose better. 2 words that get thrown at women like verdicts, as if every heartbreak is a failure of judgment rather than a feature of the human condition. Cardi B looked at that chorus and she said something that should be printed on a poster in every young woman's bedroom. If a man has a past, the past is going to knock. The past always knocks. The past knocks whether the man is a rapper, a footballer, a scammer she dated in her 20s, or a broke boy from the block she outgrew a decade ago. The only way to avoid a man's past is to date a man who has not lived, and Cardi B has never been interested in men who have not lived. Cardi B, for her part, did something that no publicist would have recommended. Cardi B told a story. Cardi B talked about a skinny little white girl who used to call her house phone in the 2000s, obsessed with a man who no longer wanted her. Cardi B talked about the scammer she dated for 3 years and the woman who came with him, a woman she called insane, a woman who made every day a battlefield. Cardi B talked about the Tommy era, the year she was still a stripper, the year the world had not yet learned her name. Cardi B laid all of it out in one breath and closed with a line that turned the whole conversation into a mic drop. "I ruffle their feathers," Cardi B said. "I just do. I do not know what it is about me, but I ruffle their feathers." And here is where the story turns strange, because Cardi B is right. Every woman who has ever been talked about, whispered about, screenshotted about, knows the exact frequency of what Cardi B just described. It is not the woman's fault. It is the mirror the woman becomes when a man looks at her and remembers what he used to be. The Maduka of it all is what makes this different, though, because Maduka Okoye is not just a rapper with a hangover of exes. Maduka Okoye is a professional athlete with a public image, a national team career, a sponsorship portfolio, and a son who is going to grow up and read every single word that adults are typing about his father this week. That son is going to read that his father was accused of skipping his ICU visit. That son is going to read that his mother said his father was bisexual. That son is going to read that another woman, an ex-girlfriend, called his mother a manipulator. That son is going to read all of it, because the internet never forgets, and the internet is where his childhood is being archived in real time, one Instagram story at a time. And this is the part where we need to talk about the pattern, because the pattern is louder than any single accusation. The pattern is a woman going public with the darkest possible allegation the moment a new woman appears on her ex's arm. The pattern is a private message becoming a public weapon the second jealousy gets an audience. The pattern is a man's reputation getting torched not because of what he did, but because of who he was seen with. And the pattern does not care whether the accusations are true. The pattern only cares about the timing, and the timing this week was surgical. Cardi B sat next to Maduka Okoye at one dinner. One dinner. And the entire architecture of a man's life started tilting. Now here is the twist inside the twist, because while Cardi B was defending her right to date, Jason Lee was on a completely different podcast, opening a completely different can, and dragging a completely different name into the same news cycle. Jason Lee, the media personality who has built an entire brand on knowing which door to knock on and which lock to pick, sat down with Carlos King and dropped a bomb that had been simmering for months. Jason Lee said Latto's team offered him money. Jason Lee said Latto's team wanted a story killed. Jason Lee said the story in question was a Latto and 21 Savage story, a story about a relationship that allegedly happened while 21 Savage was married, a story that the world was not supposed to know until Jason Lee refused the check. Jason Lee said no. Jason Lee said he loves Latto. Jason Lee said the story was true. And Jason Lee said the reason he and Latto no longer speak is because she is the only rapper who ever put his name on a track, and now she cannot stand him, and the whole thing is a Shakespearean tragedy with a beat behind it. The Latto piece matters here because it echoes the Cardi B piece in a way that most people are missing. Both stories are about women being asked to hide something. Both stories are about a public that thinks it deserves access to a private detail. Both stories are about the split second where a woman decides whether the world gets to write her chapter or whether she picks up the pen herself. Latto's team, allegedly, tried to buy the pen. Cardi B, on a live Twitter space, snatched it back. And Jason Lee, sitting between the two of them, ended up as the accidental narrator of a much bigger conversation about who owns a woman's story once a man's name is attached to it. Cardi B is not going to stay single. Cardi B said it plainly. Cardi B needs to be entertained. Cardi B has a life to live. And the crowd that wants Cardi B to disappear into an album cycle, into a gym membership, into a self-improvement montage, has fundamentally misunderstood who Cardi B has always been. Cardi B is not a woman who was ever going to age into invisibility. Cardi B is not a woman who was ever going to trade dating for discipline. Cardi B is a woman who is going to do both, at the same time, with 3 cameras following her, because that is the deal she made with the world when she chose fame, and the world does not get to renegotiate the terms every time a new man sits next to her at dinner. Maduka Okoye may or may not be the right man. That is not the question. The question is whether the woman gets to find out for herself without the internet writing the obituary before the first date is over. And right now, the answer the internet is giving Cardi B is no. The answer is that every woman connected to Maduka Okoye is going to have a microphone. The answer is that every private message is going to become a public exhibit. The answer is that a child is going to grow up in the archive of a fight his parents chose to have in public. And the answer is that Cardi B, for the crime of laughing at Paris Fashion Week, is going to be the woman blamed for a fire she did not start. And this is where the whole thing becomes bigger than gossip, because what is happening to Cardi B right now is what happens to every woman who dares to date after divorce, after heartbreak, after headlines. The chorus arrives. The chorus tells her she picked wrong. The chorus tells her she should know better. The chorus tells her that the man's baggage is her responsibility, that the man's past is her red flag, that the man's mistakes are her lesson. And the chorus never, not once, turns to the man and asks him to grow up. The chorus never turns to the baby mother and asks her to protect the child. The chorus never turns to the ex-girlfriend and asks her to put the phone down. The chorus turns to the woman who just wanted a dinner, and it hands her a bill for every mess she did not make. Cardi B has been paying that bill her entire career. Cardi B paid it during the Offset years, when the world watched a marriage collapse and decided she was the fool for staying and the fool for leaving. Cardi B paid it during the Stefon Diggs weeks, when the world could not decide whether she was moving on too fast or not fast enough. And Cardi B is paying it right now, in real time, for the sin of sitting next to Maduka Okoye at a fashion show. The bill never ends. The bill only changes columns. And Cardi B, at last, has stopped pretending she is going to pay it in silence. Here is what the algorithm is not telling you. Cardi B just gave a masterclass in narrative reclamation. Cardi B did not deny the relationship. Cardi B did not confirm the relationship. Cardi B did something far more dangerous. Cardi B took the microphone away from the baby mother, the ex-girlfriend, the tabloid, and the chorus, and she put it in front of her own mouth. Cardi B said, in her own words, that she is a woman who is going to live. Cardi B said, in her own words, that no man's past is going to be her cage. Cardi B said, in her own words, that the drama that comes with dating famous, complicated, human men is a tax she is willing to pay because the alternative is a life spent explaining herself to people who were never going to like her anyway. The Maduka Okoye story is not over. Jelicia Westhoff is not done posting. Jennifer, the ex-girlfriend, is not done defending. The Nigerian press is not done digging. The American press is not done fabricating. And somewhere in Atlanta, in a studio, Cardi B is almost certainly writing bars about all of it, because Cardi B does not waste a season. Every heartbreak becomes a hook. Every headline becomes a lyric. Every enemy becomes a verse. And by the time the next album drops, the woman who was told to choose better is going to be the woman who chose herself, and the receipts are going to be platinum. The one thing everyone is missing is this. Cardi B is not asking anyone's permission anymore. Cardi B is not campaigning for approval. Cardi B is not begging the internet to like her choices. Cardi B is doing what only the greatest reinventors in pop culture have ever done. Cardi B is turning her personal life into a public referendum on how women are allowed to age, date, love, and lose. And Cardi B is winning that referendum whether the chorus wants to admit it or not. Look at the shape of this thing. Cardi B has become, quietly, the most watched woman in hip-hop in a decade. Cardi B is the only woman whose dating life gets covered like a presidential race. Cardi B is the only woman whose Twitter spaces get transcribed like a courtroom deposition. Cardi B is the only woman whose Fashion Week seat chart gets analyzed like a stock market bell. And this is not an accident. This is a pattern that Cardi B has been building, brick by brick, since the day she left the pole and picked up the pen. Cardi B is not just a rapper. Cardi B is a cultural weather system. And whether the storm parks over Maduka Okoye, over Offset, over Stefon Diggs, or over whoever is next, the woman at the center of it is going to keep dancing in the rain because the rain is her weather. Somewhere in a boardroom, somewhere in a group chat, somewhere on a private plane, other women in the same industry are watching Cardi B and taking notes. Latto is watching. Megan is watching. Nicki, whether she admits it or not, is watching. Every woman in hip-hop who has ever been told to hide a relationship, kill a story, pay off a blog, or shrink herself into palatability is watching Cardi B do the opposite in broad daylight, and they are all, on some level, being taught a new grammar for how to survive this business. Cardi B is teaching them that the story you tell about yourself is the only story that survives. Cardi B is teaching them that a laugh in front of a camera can outrun 100 think pieces. Cardi B is teaching them that the woman who gets the last word is the woman who never asks for the first one. And so what happens next? What happens next is that Maduka Okoye is going to have to decide whether to speak, whether to stay silent, whether to fight the accusations or let them expire. Jelicia Westhoff is going to have to decide whether the fire she started is worth the smoke that is following her child. Jennifer is going to have to decide whether to keep receipts flowing or step back into the private life she came from. And Cardi B, in the middle of all of it, is going to keep doing what Cardi B has always done. Cardi B is going to keep laughing. Cardi B is going to keep dating. Cardi B is going to keep recording. And Cardi B is going to keep being the woman that the chorus keeps trying to name and never quite catches. The Jason Lee subplot with Latto is not going away either, and if you look at the two stories side by side, you can see the outlines of a much larger reckoning coming for hip-hop this year. The old model, the model where a manager makes a call, a check gets written, a story gets killed, and a woman gets scrubbed from a man's Wikipedia, is dying in front of our eyes. Jason Lee refused the check. Cardi B refused the muzzle. Jennifer refused the silence. And Jelicia Westhoff, whatever anyone thinks of her tactics, refused the invisibility that used to be the default setting for the woman a famous man was done with. The woman is no longer the footnote. The woman is the headline. And the men who have not learned that yet are going to spend the next 12 months learning it in the most expensive possible way. Cardi B did not need this week. Cardi B did not ask for this week. But Cardi B just used this week to teach every woman watching a lesson that no publicist would have paid for. The lesson is that your peace is not something you inherit. The lesson is that your peace is something you take. The lesson is that if a chorus is going to write your obituary anyway, you might as well hand them the pen with your own name already at the top. And the lesson is that the woman who is done apologizing is the woman the algorithm cannot stop watching. So the next time you see a photograph of Cardi B smiling next to a man the internet has decided she should not be smiling next to, do not ask whether Cardi B picked better. Ask whether the chorus deserves the woman it keeps trying to correct. Ask whether the baby mother is protecting her child or performing for her feed. Ask whether the ex-girlfriend is defending a man or exorcising a memory. Ask whether the media personality is telling the truth or building a brand. And ask whether the woman at the center, the woman with the microphone, the woman with the last word, might just be the only person in the entire story who has been telling the truth from the beginning. Cardi B told the truth. Cardi B said she is not staying single. Cardi B said her needs are her own. Cardi B said the past always knocks. Cardi B said the chorus is going to hate her anyway. And Cardi B said all of it while laughing, because a woman who is done explaining herself is a woman who has finally figured out that the joke was never on her. The joke was on the chorus that thought her silence was consent. And that is the story. That is where it stands tonight. A soccer star with a burning house. A baby mother with a bullhorn. An ex-girlfriend with a folder full of screenshots. A media personality with a rejected check. A rapper next door with a subplot of her own. And in the middle of all of it, Cardi B, laughing at Paris Fashion Week, refusing to shrink, refusing to explain, refusing to become the version of herself that the chorus keeps sketching for her. Cardi B is not the problem. Cardi B never was. Cardi B is the mirror the chorus keeps refusing to look at, and the algorithm knows it, which is why you clicked on this video, which is why you are still here, and which is why you are about to hit that button in the corner of the screen and tell me exactly which side of this you land on. Drop it in the comments. Tell me whether you think Cardi B is choosing wrong or choosing free. Tell me whether Jelicia Westhoff is protecting her son or performing for the algorithm. Tell me whether Jennifer is a hero or a hostage of her own past. And tell me whether the entire Maduka Okoye story is a scandal or a symptom of something much larger that hip-hop is about to have to answer for. Because the next chapter of this saga is already loading, and the name at the top of it might not be the one you expect. Stay on the channel. The next domino is closer than it looks.